Hi, I have a small collection here of just a few of the books that have been written by or about Ezra Taft Benson, and I wanted to share them with you and tell you what are my favorites. This, of course, is our Relief Society Priesthood lesson manual, and in the beginning there's biographical information in here, so we're starting with biographies here. This is the official church biography written by Sherry Dew, and it's wonderful. And it's about almost 500 pages long, so it will keep you busy for a while. Yeah, it's over 500. And here's an Benson article that came out in January of this year, of 2015. So that gives you some good sources of biographical information. And then on our website, we have on this page about President Benson a link to the audio of the tribute that Reed Benson, his son, paid to him at our homeschool conference the week that President Benson died. And also, as a side note, this is the dissertation that Reed did on homeschooling. It was a BYU dissertation. He did it through BYU, and it was actually the story of their first year experimenting with homeschooling. So you know indirectly here that there is no question that President Benson was a great supporter of homeschooling and private schools. So those are biographical, and these also are. These two books, and I think there's another one out there too, cover the year after the Second World War. President Benson was sent over to Europe to help the saints there, and they sent over food and supplies, and then he tried to contact all the saints and work with the church structure that was there to try to get things rebuilt and be able to carry on. This book is called A Labor of Love, and this was in 1946 that he served that year, Ezra Taft Benson. And this book is actually the letters that he sent to Flora from Europe and the letters that she sent to him. So if you want the inside story of this, then you want to read the letters that they sent. And this one is called On Wings of Faith, and it was written by Brother Babel, who President Benson took along with him for that year as his secretary. So this is from Brother Babel's point of view. Maybe it's Babel, I don't know. But it's a very interesting book. For a long time, I just didn't want to read them because I thought they would be depressing, but they really aren't. It's sad, but they're both really good books. And I bought both of mine used. I buy most of my books actually used online, so it saves money. Now this one is my favorite of the biographies, because this is the one that covers the 8 years that he spent as Secretary of Agriculture, working for President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And I want to share his reason for writing this book. And he said in the beginning, I kept a daily journal in which were recorded the fresh recollections of each day's events, incidents, and conversations. It ran to 10 volumes and totaled, I judge, some 750,000 words. So this is the journal from which the book was written. Why was the book written? One reason is that I believe the more the people know about what goes on in government, the better. The people need to know more about what their leaders are like, what motivates them, how decisions are made, the kind of infighting that takes place as political forces and figures struggle to pass or defeat legislative programs, and in so doing mold the future of this republic. And then that was how he started out his 8 years, and then he said in the end, when he finished, I realized that there were many reasons why I wanted to write Crossfire, but there was one reason why I had to write it. This book became inevitable because I am deeply persuaded that our precious God-given freedom is dying, and because too many good men do nothing to preserve it. So it really was a call to the priesthood. and all the men of our country. He had a wide audience. People loved him, farmers and other groups, any patriots out there, and he spoke all over. So some directed to the church members in church, and some directed to other people as well. Now, this little stack is the teachings. This is the official teachings book that was released when President Benson became the prophet. And I suggest that you get this. You have to check the website to see if it's available in book form, but it's available online if not, or as an ebook. And read this, especially read the chapter on education, because you will be surprised how supportive President Benson has been all along of private schools and religious schools, and how concerned he's been and how long he's known that the schools were bad for our children. And also the chapters on government and freedom. It's very important. This is a compilation of some of his talks up until the time that he became the prophet. Actually, it's probably all of his talks in the church. A friend of mine did this, and the church asked him not to keep distributing it, so he stopped. So I can't get you a copy of that. It's just there to suggest that maybe you want to make a book and collect your favorites of his talks and bind them for your children for posterity and as a study book at home. Now this is the one we're using in church this year, and I just want to go to one of the lessons in this book. Lesson number 3, which would have been the first lesson in April, and on page let me see here. Page 65. That's where we'll be. And this is the lesson that is called Freedom of Choice and Eternal Principle. It starts on page 59. On page 65, it begins to quote from a talk that President Benson gave. And you can find this whole talk online. It's called Not Commanded in All Things. And it was given in April of 1965. So it is at this moment in time, this is May, and so it's just a month over 50 years old. So it's time we paid attention to this. So it starts here, quoting, and then it says, I'm going to go to the next page here. Usually the Lord gives us the overall objectives to accomplish and some guidelines to follow. When he has something he wants us to do, he gives us the guidelines generally, but he expects us to work out most of the details and methods. And then dropping down to the next paragraph, he said, sometimes the Lord hopefully waits on his children to act on their own. And when they do not, they lose the greater prize, and the Lord will either drop the entire matter and let them suffer the consequences, or else he will have to spell it out in greater detail. Usually I fear the more he has to spell it out, the smaller is our reward. For instance, in early Utah, the church ran their own school system. And then as the idea began to come, let's have the government do it and it'll be free. And the church leaders kept telling people, don't do this, support the church schools. And the people would not. So eventually they had to close the church schools down. And have we suffered the consequence of that in our day? I think so. And so you will find this here footnoted at the bottom to footnote number 33, and it is this talk. It will say conference, April 1965. So if you go on the church website and look up that talk, it's called Not Commanded in All Things. Let me tell you a couple more things that are in here. There's the part that we've read. In the preexistence, he talks about it was the freedom issue which determined whether you received a body. In other words, no matter what else you did on the other side of that veil, whatever you learned, however good you were, whatever, it's only the freedom issue. That was the deciding factor, how you voted in that Grand Council. And when Social Security was first being discussed and passed as a government program, welfare program for the elderly, that's me, President Benson said in a conference talk, the Latter-day Saints need to remember how they voted in the pre-existence and not change their vote when they get down here. So there we are. The issues are the same as they were, he's saying, as they were there. Shall men be compelled to do what others claim is for their best welfare, or will they heed the counsel of the prophet and preserve their freedom? And let's see. Satan argued that men given their freedom would not choose correctly, therefore he would compel them to do right and save us all. So that is still the argument today. We believe the gospel is the greatest thing in the world. Why, then, do we not force people to join the church? The most important thing there is, we don't force. So how dare we force people to attend school at a certain place of our choice? And then he says, the Lord knew that before the gospel could flourish, there must first be an atmosphere of freedom. This is why he first established the constitution of this land through the Gentiles whom he raised up before he restored the gospel. We had to have that constitution first. And here we are with our church leaders telling us, and it was mentioned more than once in conference, we need to have freedom, religious freedom, in order for the church to continue. And we need freedom of conscience. We need freedom to own our own property. We all of those things taken away make it hard for the church to even do its job. Let me see here. The devil knows that if the elders of Israel should ever wake up, they could step forth and help preserve freedom and extend the gospel. Therefore, the devil has concentrated, and to a large extent successfully, in neutralizing much of the priesthood. He has reduced them to sleeping giants. I assume this was given in a priesthood meeting, but I see that most of the people doing the fighting there actually are the women. Usually they're women who've raised their own children and maybe have time, but maybe their children need them more. So it would be nice if we could get the priesthood more involved in this. Satan would make the argument that you're too involved in your church work. But he says your other church work will be inhibited once you lose your freedom, and as our saints have found out in Czechoslovakia, Poland, and many other nations. And let me see, 50 years ago, some Book of Mormon. Okay, what if you feel like it's too late? We've already lost our freedom. This was 50 years ago when he spoke. And said if we do it now, we can save it. But his answer to that is some Book of Mormon prophets knew of the final desolate end of their nations, but they still fought on. And they saved some souls, including their own, by so doing. For after all, the purpose of life is to prove ourselves, and the final victory will be for freedom. So win or lose, we have to take a stand and do our fighting. The longer we wait, this is the sad part, the longer we wait, the heavier the chains, the deeper the blood, and the more the persecution, and the less we can carry out our God-given mandate and worldwide mission. So I think this is a talk worth paying attention to and saving and sharing. Okay, a few more talks that President Benson gave. This is the Constitution, a Heavenly Banner. This was his talk in preparation for the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution. You probably can't find this booklet anymore, but you can find the talk online. It's on our website page. And he also gave it, he actually gave it a year before in preparation, hoping, I guess, that he would get the BYU students involved, because if I remember right, he gave it at BYU first, and then he gave it at conference, a similar one. This is a brochure printed up, and it was a letter, actually, that President David O. McKay sent out to the church. It says, Communism, a statement of the position of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And let me read you a couple paragraphs of this. President McKay said, in order that there may be no misunderstanding by bishops, stake presidents, and others regarding members of the church participating in non-church meetings to study and become informed on the Constitution of the United States, communism, etc., I wish to make the following statements that I have been sending out from my office for some time, and that have come under question by some stake authorities, bishoprics, and others. And over here he says, in this connection, we are continually being asked to give our opinion concerning various patriotic groups or individuals who are fighting communism and speaking up for freedom. Down here he has said that the church has always been opposed to communism. Back up here, our immediate concern, however, is not with parties, groups, or persons, but with principles. We therefore commend and encourage every person and every group who is sincerely seeking to study constitutional principles and awaken a sleeping and apathetic people to the alarming conditions that are rapidly advancing about us. We wish all of our citizens throughout the land were participating in some type of organized self-education in order that they could better appreciate what is happening and know what they can do about it. So here is one source of self-education and a good place to start. Here are a few more talks that President Benson gave. These were sort of the last ones. I believe this was maybe one of his very last talks to the children of the church, to the young women of the church, to the fathers in Israel, to the home teachers of the church, to the single adult brethren, and there were a few more. One of them was to the mothers of the church, and I remember that one well. Well, the one to the brethren caused a little bit of a stir because he told them to get married, but we hear that frequently now. To the women, he begged the women, come home from the typewriter, and wherever else, he mentioned some other places. Please come home and raise your children. And that did not go over well with a lot of women who were seeking careers. Now, there are many books that are not church doctrinal. They're just talks he gave on freedom to other groups around the country. An Enemy Hath Done This is a collection of his talks. And these are printed by archive publishers or Wholesome Books. They're together. It's one company does both. And they're listed on our front page of our website down in the bottom right corner. This is An Enemy Hath Done This, and there are other books. There were many books. This one I found used. It's God, Family, and Country, Our Three Great Loyalties. And it seems that it feels like it might have been written for a youth textbook in a private school setting or something. Not something that you really have to have, but you might want it because of the size of the text and the feel of it. Your children might want it. And one last book I want to show you, and that is this. Ezra Taft Benson. It's a leather-bound book with gold gilded edges, and it's just simply a collection of his talks, nothing that you can't get online. But in the church office building, they occasionally give a book like this to the church employees for their Christmas party. And I assume it's after a prophet has died, then the next party that comes up, they get this. So when I found this online, I felt like I needed to have a copy of it. And actually, I think it's sometimes referenced in the footnotes of this book. I'm pretty sure I've seen that. So this is not a book you need. This is a treasure. This is a gift kind of book. And I bought this used online. And of course it was often books like this and like these are given as gifts and the people don't ever read them. And they end up online. So that's what this one was. And it has somebody's name in the front. And they had given this to as a gift to somebody. It says to gift to the library, so it probably went in a ward library, and somebody didn't want it there anymore. So it's mine now. There are also books like this of several other prophets that I've also seen online. So if there's some special reason, President Benson was just a huge part of my life and my education. And it was just important to me. That was the Christmas present I bought myself. There are other prophets also that they've given out these books. So you might want to look around if you've got somebody in your family history or something that you want to relate to. But at any rate, at least pay attention. It's time that we start learning the Constitution, the proper role of government. And President Benson had a big part in this, so we need to respect him for that, whether we study from him or some other source. But we do need to do that. And then the question is, where is he now? What is he doing? Is he still involved? Something to think about and ponder on, although I have no answers and we probably won't, but we will talk about it just a little bit in the next video.